Is that like Little League? Basically?
Yes.
Meeting 104. Let's see, we have 5. Does anyone have any?
We can do the 5 o'clock informational meeting first
Oh,
for the relicensing.
okay.
So we'll open that part up. Like you just said.
We're opening it up for the public informational meeting for septic sludge licensing. I read my agenda.
We'll wait 15 minutes until they shows up. There's one abutter that just bought the property on Ross Pond, lower, just below Sheffield. That mentioned they're gonna come here.
Colonel Marshall's land.
Okay. Actually, the new owners, but they bought that. So they had some questions. Hopefully they show up. Go from there.
So we're idling, or do you want us to run through some stuff while we're waiting?
Well, I will do without the idea of basic conversation. Obviously, there's, as you mentioned, there's no public currently. Developments in the license. The intention of this meeting, obviously, is I have to hold it per license requirements or conditions or application conditions for public input. My goal is to get it filed by the 13th. There is some new constraints, developments within DEP, EPA. Two problems with this license is I let it lapse. Normally it's a 5-year term, right? It's only a 2-year term in this last stretch based on what they knew was coming down the pipeline with PFAS, where we are now, right? Like, so like a bonehead, I forgot, let it lapse and didn't find out until, well, didn't realize or pay attention until December 30th, and it expired the 31st, so here we are. With that said, drag my feet a little bit, however, been in talks with DEP, and then there goes in the meantime, there is a lot of unknown, but a lot of regulation coming down the pipeline in regards to PFAS. What I was told through my inspector is that even if my license was renewed on time, 6 months prior, we'll say, there was or is no guarantee I'd have it back.
It'd be open.
It'd be open anyway.
Be open up for admin mod if they give it to you.
Right.
Traditionally.
So what if I would have been, James said, I would have been, I could still operate on the old license. Correct. With some mod. However, I can't do that now. What I just found today, I didn't confirm from DEP is I'm quite sure legislatively they're gonna shut down septic sludge, or say shut down or highly restrict septic sludge spreading this August, starting this August. Be extremely conditional based on volumetric quantities, testing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I know part of the conversation before was, well, I on the side, in a different department. Right. So part of the conversation we did have is I met with the AvCog also in a totally irrelevant matter. The idea of food composting at the transfer station. We're going to initiate that on a small scale to try to reduce, the payload or reduce our waste stream. Hopefully keep those organics in house to then potentially make money off it. That's the long-term goal. If it happens, who knows? With that said, Mark King with AvCog mentioned that there is potential, again, nothing's written yet, potential that places like Madison that already drive the sludge, that already do the corkscrew presses and stuff, may have to continue that process and go that way. So there's a lot unknown for range these environments, or range these opportunities going to be. It may come down to the drastic overhaul in our treatment process, just strictly at the beginning of septic sludge. One thought was introducing it into the collection system, but we know how that works with a anaerobic and anaerobic mixture, bacteria mix, and it coming out of your naturals and do a lot more harm to our system than good, potentially, depending on the dilution factor and everything else. And we don't know, there's a lot of unknowns at septic sludge what people put down their drinks that isn't diluted and comes in a large concentrate, in a large liquor, so. Again, I'm definitely uncertain of where we're headed. I've looked at some treatment systems. One of the most effective is carbon filtration. It is very, 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 very expensive. And what I found for systems so far only do about 20,000 gallons a day. You know, we're putting up over 100,000 a day right now. So for those larger scale systems, I'm on my way. I'm also working with Wright Pierce to look at have them look at water systems. You know, where we're headed with DEP. I'll show you what else I can say. I would say good news in the PFAS thing, which isn't really good news. The forever chemicals that are found mostly in that waterproofing, suntan lotions, chapsticks, vortex clothing,
Non-stick.
Teflon, a lot of things. Foods, you would think anything that has a gelatin or plastic component to it, which, well, I say plastic, but gummy component to it's going to have some of that forever chemical in it. One side they found through composting animals, that domestic animals you can change their dietary or restrict their dietary components or change it, and if you feed them a PFAS-free diet for 3 years, it's out of their system 100%. The unfortunate part, obviously, is that's domesticated, so that's cows, stuff that's a long lifespan or potential lifespan like that. Turkey, stuff like that, people raise, they're getting rid of them, they're killing them, they can't sell them. But they are, again, they're landfilling those animals, are landfilling or composting those animals, and through the natural carving process, they're able to naturally remove a lot of that PFAS somehow. I don't know if it's through just natural breakdown of that animal, and it's a lot more to it than I've been aware of. So I'm not educated in this whole thing. There's so much to it. The water districts throughout the state of Maine right now are by December 31st have to have submitted a test for PFAS. Sewer departments right now, it's 100% voluntary, and it's suggested that we don't do a test yet, based on the unknowns and the ability for us to understand.
Does it come better tests, better test procedures?
Testing procedures, legislative to become a little more, the law to become a little more stable.
Let the standard.
Let the standard be set. So questions have been arose around town about getting everything tested and being ready for it. But it's double-edged sword, catch-22, where you can test ahead and understand what you have in our grounds and our waters. But if we're not ready to treat it, then your DEP wants you to move a lot faster. So right now we're able to educate ourselves and not allow the law to be written and the standard to be exemplified. Hopefully we get that in the meantime through this licensing process, educate ourselves, and hopefully get a system in place to be able to treat it if we have to. It's kind of where we're at with that license part. Aside from that, again, I'm going to submit it on Friday, pending all the information comes from this meeting. And from there, it'll be just a waiting game. It could be a couple months, a year before we get land spread.
It's not gonna go fast.
You need to sign in for any public that comes in?
Yeah.
Okay. Kennebunkport, Wells water system, they actually treat one of their sources. They engineered it and they've been through it. They've done a lot of money and a lot of time into it. It's a lot. They're a big system too, so they probably produce a lot of water.
Absolutely. I can tell you, I sat through a training class from the water side, PFAS sampling and collections and all that stuff and treating. Even the testing is terrifying. Like, it's like they want the perfect world where you have to hold your breath for 15 minutes. It's essentially, you can't wear this clothing. You can't have like moisture on. You have to be like perfect, like sterile. You can't breathe. Bottle has to be touched with something that's sterile, et cetera, et cetera. all this cross contamination stuff that comes into play. It's so much worse than any kind of wastewater I've ever seen in my life. The idea of how you have to test it.
We haven't done
Because
it.
anything can set it off.
So,
We're close.
And this is the plastic particulates that's in the ground and landfills, and I said, like, I think it was up in Waterville comes to mind, where you're not even supposed to eat the deer that you shoot anymore,
Yeah, fair. Yeah, correct.
because they've been,
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes, they
okay.
went as far as now as a lot of the fish. In that same.
right, yeah.
There's a
But
lot
then-
Maybe ILW has a suggested list out.
Don't consume any more than, so many of this type of fish and, I think it's like 4 fish for the year.
in certain rivers,
Certain
and,
rivers, et cetera,
right.
et cetera, et cetera.
Really? I've
That's
done
the
one
stuff.
PFAS test. They had a control of contaminated free water. It was. And I had to pour that into the bottle, like where I was testing.
Yep.
And then I was nitrile gloves, wash your hands, nitrile gloves, dip it, whatever, then pour that one in. So if they found PFAS in that one, then they knew your sampling procedure was a little contaminated.
Absolutely.
If they didn't, then your sample was good to go. I thought that was at least an easy way to deal with it.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct.
If it's in the air, it's gonna catch it, or if it's, wait for uses.
That's crazy.
Just sent this in, not just recently. We're gonna probably do ours in the next month. Or next 2 weeks probably.
I'm really shocked at the state of what we find.
What's that?
I'm really shocked.
Nothing's up in my system.
You start going looking for stuff, and you'll
Yeah.
find it.
You're gonna find it.
And unfortunately, Maine set the standard fairly, they set the numbers low, so it's gonna be, it
Yeah,
doesn't take much, we'll put it that way,
It's parts, I guess, 20 parts per trillion.
per trillion. Yeah.
Holy crap,
It's
minute.
Yeah, it's, we set it lower than what the EPA suggested.
Right, so Maine is actually, Maine, if I'm saying this right too, Maine is the, I don't want to say guinea pig, but Maine is leading the way in this effort.
I don't get that. That doesn't make any sense to me. We are one of the poorest states as far as that goes. And we have so many small systems. What are they gonna do when the small systems that you've gotta raise, $50,000 to get treatment to all your houses? Well, we can't. I got
Part of my
100
mind frame in
people. I
there,
just don't,
I think their method to their madness is the persona, it's part of that Clean Water Act that they want to continue
Sure.
to move forward with. And obviously, like you said, the next step is drastic. I mean, you've already crippled a dying industry as it is, the farming industry. But you look at a number of other industries that are involved in that. The state's gonna have to they are in some cases reimbursing those generational businesses. They're helping them in the correction process. Sometimes they're trying to help as much as they can, as much as the state is willing to or can. And there's still a lot of funding federally, potentially is the next coming out, and they either buy people out.
Wow.
So
And this is the reason for the scale back in August?
right. So again, I don't know what that means for us. It's like I have nothing. DEP will not tell me anything.
Of course.
I don't know.
Because they don't know, as John said, and this is just from like today. I found out through Nick Melcher Brackets now that he's talked to the people that came up to look at they're getting word that it's going to drastically change in August.
Wow.
So
Chris, what the hell are you doing?
I just hope they have money available out there for people that are getting in, because they don't at this point. They have loans.
that's it.
Loans do not help.
They don't have
Do not
anybody.
help.
If you can't have a farm, you can't sell your critters, the loan's not going to help you.
Right.
I mean, I'm that and water systems. I just don't, I know a lot of places are run by, 80-year-old men that just stick around because, they can't afford to do anything else.
That's it.
And then and I'm not saying that it doesn't have to happen, it should happen, we should be looking at this, but you really should have a plan on how you're gonna help all these people.
Right
The farmers,
before you restrict it.
small systems,
Yeah,
big systems
exactly.
that can deal with it.
Have something in mind first.
One more minute, you can,
We should almost have to treat it like nuclear waste or something. Put it in a concrete bunker and.
right.
Is it water in the office?
There's. I think you're actually putting the molders out. Should have. I have a whole one, but I got a promise.
Yeah, I'll take one if you want to grab one. I didn't freaking, I'm wearing freaking. I'm still not necessarily wearing shorts. What's that?
Still have the same as last.
Do that now?
We're gonna choke to death on this stuff.
Yeah, man.
I come from Shaker Springs.
We're
Absolutely.
we're a disposable
Absolutely.
society.
The moose
We're
ball.
gonna change that.
Yes. Okay.
It's all cash. All right,
So just get through a motion.
we
to
close the public, well, we're moving on.
Okay.
From public meeting for a separate side, we open the regular meeting, look at that, 5:20. We have four members. Yeah.
Fine.
We have 4 members. At this point, does anyone have a conflict of interest to disclose? I don't think so. All right. Any adjustments to the agenda?
So actually, what you see in front of you is not the correct agenda. Tracy did send out an email, unfortunately, I didn't print it out. We'll follow this agenda, but there is an adjustment in new business, which would be the rate study, that the rate hearing plan, an update on that, which actually continuing business. I apologize.
Oh. Minor.
So it's actually on
That's
just,
minor.
there was an
We have the
attachment,
wrong date.
wrong date,
No,
wrong date,
This
wrong
is-
year.
we can all adapt.
That is the wrong year too.
Wrong date, wrong year.
Oh, Chris.
Oh, that's funny.
And yeah, in Tracy's email, there wasn't a new attachment that went along with it.
I think we'll adapt on the on this one. All right, it's been forever. Review meeting minutes for December 14. I went over them. I did not see any issues. Anyone else? Give it a little bit forward.
I can't remember back then.
I'm gonna say as close as I can recall.
All right, I'm gonna make a motion to accept December 14th, 2021's minutes as written.
Second that.
All those in favor? 4-0. All right, moving on, public to speak. One moment for non items. Purchase orders.
Only thing that's gonna be relevant here.
100,000 gallon anaerobic digester.
That's gonna be next, right? They'll go hand in hand with the rate hearing information, but we did receive a grant to the SRF funds for $30,000 matching funds. It's kind of not really relevant, but it's relevant,
30K grant.
Matching.
30K, sound line.
which actually ends up be going, so we'll match it to 60K. And it's actually great, it's a principal forgiveness. So it's all actually. All right, we take it back. Say that again. That's back, so that $30,000 on their side actually is in lieu, is represented by principal forgiveness from a SRF or a bond or SRF funds.
They're gonna match what you,
So we get $30,000 back or off.
so you taking a loan?
No.
Okay,
It's an
so
actual
they're
grant.
just gonna give you that, okay.
I have to match it,
Reimburse,
but they give me my $30,000 back, or they give $30,000 towards it.
Yep.
But it comes off the principal of the loan that we already have out.
gotcha.
Okay, sorry.
Yep, no, that's fine.
Applications, there's none on the email.
No, nothing's actually,
Should be getting some soon.
you would think,
I would figure there would be a stack.
with all of the development in town,
I see.
there has been nothing.
On that build the holes they dug last
Right.
summer.
Nothing's come to us that hasn't been approved, what's being built in locally has already been approved by us, nothing new has developed in town.
All right, moving on to the abatement
So
review.
that actually, you guys can review it. I'll be honest, unfortunately,
I already did, so, well,
Okay.
I'll let you get it.
all right, the unfortunate part is Al came out today, and the idea was I put attention, Rick and I discussed it. I approved it with Rebecca. She took that, we took that, or she took that as confirmation and already processed the abatement. So I will be honest that the water
Went down the
went
drain,
down the drain.
so therefore there's no abatement.
There should be an abatement, but again, it's already been processed, it's already been paid, it's already been approved. So it's clear at that point. So at this point, it's already been forgiven.
Oh,
So
water over the dam.
water over the dam, but it's in there for you guys to see, understand what happened. And it's, you know, it's an error on our part. Proof that I have to be more careful and how we communicate and how we move people.
So you call out.
I need to call out.
Come to a maintenance call out. First thing.
That's right.
All right. Easy enough.
Right.
Chick Hill update.
All right, Chick Hill, we are starting to,
Turn on sprayer.
yeah, the elder on today, tighten all the fittings back up. Check the inventory we had. Should be developing the front of the fields this week, get the fields ready to operate. As you know, should have a good year, we're pretty dry, so we'll put out some fluid pretty quickly. Be able to stay on top of it, we're in really good shape with the lagoons right now. I don't have to have elevation, but
When we came out of severe drought last year,
I mean, they were still,
we're still kind of in it, we just have just enough snow to fill the lake.
so we, you know, we'll have that process moving. We're actually communicating or reaching out to labs to probably go back up to bid for testing. One, the idea of, and should be doing it every 3 to 5 years anyway, just to stay competitive, fair market values and everything. And then in all honesty, through our current laboratory, that being taught analyticals, there's been a drastic employment change there, staffing change, and management change.
Yeah, that's true.
And unfortunately, it's been a delay. Communication's been a little lax lately. I think we're on our, I think it's in the last 2 years, our probably fifth project manager. So I can't mean, they had done good work, but I just can't rely on them at this time and try to be effective with DEP and be comfortable with putting a sample out and having it tested and getting it back in time if I have to resample. So
Is Clearwater able to
yes, I'm actually working.
take on the volume if they
They were prior, I don't know if they are now. I have to reach back up to them again. I haven't reached out myself, the guys have reached out. Clearwater hasn't returned a call. I'm sure they are, they're obviously busy, I know they are. So
Is there a lot of difference in pricing from lab to lab?
So there is a difference. One of the primary differences prior with Clearwater versus Catawba. Clearwater is comprised of veteran wastewater operators, laboratory operators they're phenomenal. They're some of the best in the state by all means. And the one, when I met with them a couple of years ago, they weren't, unless they rented the equipment, they weren't able to do field testing. Like our annual or biannual well testing. They have to rent the gear and everything. So it made the cost go up significantly. At this point though, they were able to come pick the samples up for us, or beat us. Everything else was perfect, or even better than what we're having now. So I'm willing to compromise and cost if the turnaround is.
So
communication better.
They're the only lab I've ever used. I haven't even.
So you
I
have
don't
to
even
put it
go
up to
up.
bid, or can you just change? I mean, I don't feel it. I know you're gonna do what you have, whatever they tell you to do, but it almost to me like you go with the reputation of the lab. You don't just say, well, you're the cheapest, we're gonna go with you. That
No.
does not
No,
work.
correct. So
No.
I think part of it is just gonna be, I think honestly, given the cost, we'll just get some quote to show that I put some effort in, but I do have the ability, like you said, to weigh in on it and accept that respectful lab, or it's wrong to say that, like the highly recommended laboratory professionals.
Okay, I just
never had an issue.
There you go.
Mark
I'll
right
go with
there.
that. That's kind of just where we're at right now, just like a spring turnaround.
All right. That concludes the chit chat. All right, continuing business, sewer connection compliance.
All right, so all we're really our last part of this connection compliance is
Ready?
yes, so yes, Rudy, which technically there's a stub in place, but having him connect. And then would be the Davenport subdivision. And that's, Kenny
That's gonna
technically,
be like a new construction project
Right.
anyways.
so Kenny has a dwelling up there right now that currently has a holding tank. That was
Oh,
allowed,
that's right.
per our agreement. It will be connected once we continue on that project. So. And I have reached out to Rudy to understand, but I mean, there will be, in my opinion, I need to go back to the document sent him and the agreement that was made, and we'll have to probably, if he's not willing to move forward with it, we're gonna have to look at the ladder of the agreement and probably have a stop work order. A stop work order or something probably will have to take place if we can't comply with. Right.
Throw it down.
Pretty much have to.
Ugh, oh, well, okay. Rate hearing planning.
All right, so that has
I
developed.
should know something about that, but I don't.
That's fair. So, yeah, it's been an embarrassing 11 years that I haven't entertained this idea. So part of the reasoning, and it's probably a poor excuse, part of the reasoning is understanding of debt being paid off and being premature on a rate adjustment, understanding that we're having loans paid off and we'll have to change it again. Again, not a good reason. With that said, the idea was for us, originally for us to start planning a hearing and talk to me about water, whatever, have a development plan in here and go forth. Since then, since our last meeting, we applied for SRF funds and were awarded $30,000 from the state for a rate study and rate study and implementation plan. So I'll keep you guys as we move forward now. So we have Wright Pierce was selected as our firm to represent us. They will work with myself and Rebecca and other entities, and we'll develop a plan on how to implement where we should be fundamentally for a rate, and then obviously we'll plan out moving forward for every also 35.
Correct.
So,
I know the voting. I'll get back to
this one.
I know the voting public, everyone was gonna want the rate to go down because the debt's been paid down. We're staring down the double barrel of this PFAS, stuff like this. So the rate staying the same right now is probably gonna be cheaper than what they're going to
I was just gonna say the same thing.
be. So,
What's gonna happen?
obviously, Wright Pierce, there's gonna be new equipment, new protocols, who knows what.
absolutely.
All of that's gonna cost way more money than everyone ever thought 11 years ago.
Right.
So I mean, so honestly, the Wright Pierce is gonna come back and probably the rate's gonna go up.
If I will, so what we'll do is
Set it down.
well, obviously, they'll work with you, work with us as a committee, obviously, implement these plans. So we'll work together. Now, once I have that plan developed or a schedule developed, we'll let you guys know as we work on the meetings, everything. John is 100% right though. So part of the initial reasoning behind pressure from the board for a rate study was they wanted to go back, they wanted to understand where we were one, and then they wanted to take the taxpayer out of the funding for the sewer department. They wanted to strictly user fee funded. So there is some merit to that. However, the state does allow, there's no necessarily rule on it. The state allows you to have a funding formula set up so that if any capital improvements can be paid for or should be paid for through taxpayers' dollars, not just user rates. And if you do that if you split it, it should be fairly equal in the 50-50 split and how that's split up. So that's something right now, we're fairly close, like 56-44, I'm a little off. So with that said now, though, is with this new PFAS development, and I'm saying we'll have to have change.
This is coming back to me.
So-
I'm in pretty much complete disagreement with the board on that one. All the taxpayers go to a restaurant in town.
Yeah, I don't see how you could,
They flush the toilet.
Segregate that.
The school, this office.
Right. I don't disagree.
All water goes down the drain.
You know, even in their arguments that they did have, a few members that had an argument, or curiosity was,
It's all superficial.
they have a septic system,
right,
so I still have to treat, I'm not directly treating it, but I will have to now.
And
Right.
the waste hauler comes, pumps that out, it gets hauled.
Right, so regardless, now granted, it was on, at that point, at that time, it was less expensive, I get it.
that's
Not
crazy.
anymore. You know, we're looking at, it's probably, so I definitely, I don't see, we'll be lucky if we can maintain the current rate. I honestly think. You know,
Lucky if we can what?
maintain the current fee structure. I think we're gonna see an increase. Yep. Hopefully we can do it. If it's, you know, if it has to be a step system, that's what we'll do it, but not to stick shock anybody.
Right.
You know, the economy is, or the job market is strong, but the economy is weak. And it's, you know, also inflation is crazy. So I don't wanna contribute to that crippling factor of what people are saying between gas pumps and electricity bills and everything else, but you know, we're have to adjust.
And there's no way that you could fund it with user money, could you?
So
There wouldn't be, getting to be a
Rates
nice.
will go up.
the only way,
That's what I'm saying, Joe, yeah.
So you have to,
Skyrocket even.
you have to do it based on revenue. So Carabas Valley does it that way. Primarily, if I understand this right. So what they do is their sewer permits are like $3,000. And then there's other components to that. So what they're able to do is all their capital costs is through that exuberant cost of initial hookup allows them to pay cash for a lot of upgrades. So what we'd have to do for us is stuff you have to increase your permit fees significantly. Your hauler fees will have to go up, you know, septic sludge allowance and that acceptance rate will have to go up, you know, significantly. Will be, you know, per 1,000 gallons. Right now it's setting ranges of $25 per 1,000 gallons. So if you want to, that's like probably bring in 25 grand a year, we'll say,
Mhm.
you know, whatever the number actually is, which is bad. I don't know that top of my head, but we're significantly, you know, your prices are going to go up significantly if you look at those rates. If those people that are connected by a collection system, then they're going to see a drastic cost or increase in that cost between the hauler and the town. Well, the hauler actually, it'll be town to the hauler, hauler to
Right,
the customer.
Yeah, because waste haulers passes that on the invoice.
I don't see, what they were thinking there, that's wild.
So you figure out, what's this mean? If you want to.
It's got limited development amongst.
Right.
Within the sewer grid. Versus the greater development around the area.
You know, and
Costs down.
part of that thinking process we have to look at anyway, is you look at development in town, as John has said. It's not necessarily in town. You look at Saddleback, you look at these other divisions that are coming in, subdivisions, Rangeley North, Rangeley West, all those things that are starting to be brought up is septic systems.
Right,
You know, and our fee, we took it over 500,000 gallons last year, septic stuff. Through two, so if I mow it twice a year, or if I mow it 10 times a year, the highest I can go is like 675,000 gallons.
mhm,
So if I don't get on a good schedule here, I mean, we're gonna be at over capacity anyway.
sure,
So either to haul it off, or open another field up, which I'm not willing to do, because the idea with opening the field up was to just turn life over.
To be able to have a parallel section.
Right.
Section.
So as Rangeley develops, as Rangeley region develops more, we have to reconsider our capacities no matter what.
Regardless, right?
Not necessarily. in-
Everybody's still using it to a point.
Right, so in our collection system, not as much, but in our secondary systems,
Right.
absolutely.
Wow.
And if you look at Saddleback's development right now, what they have plans for.
Oh, yeah,
we're
it's
gonna-
huge.
Yeah, we're gonna receive a considerable amount of waste. So,
Dump it down the backside of it.
It's an option. They should just make, they should have it intended, they should have their own treatment system.
Yeah, they should actually.
They could honestly make snow out of it and
Yeah.
just treat it, so. That's the gist of the rate hearing, so.
The SRF funds, is that a low cost loan, or is it forgiven, or is it a match?
Forgiven.
Forgiven. Okay, it's a grant.
Grant. Yeah, that's up to $50,000 and we applied for 30 and received it. We were, I think we were probably placed 6 or 7 out of 10. that received it.
Point system.
There we go.
Yeah, right place, yeah. 11 years is a long time.
It is.
Because the water district did the same thing. It was,
Absolutely.
and I heard,
It's
when.
It's 11 years I'm aware of. Yeah, I don't know, I don't remember what Frenchie's last rate hearing or adjustment was prior to myself joining the town. So. Yeah, you know, the ordinance was developed in 2011, rewritten in 11, so. We are 10 years from that.
Yeah.
Actually, I will tell you, the next one, actually, I'll let us do business.
All right. Anything else over here?
No, sir.
Comprehensive plan directives. I found one, apparently there was two.
Those are two in front of you. First one being development of downtown Boston. Years in the comp plan, and when Frenchie was still here, there was talks. And the idea of a downtown collection system for Boston hasn't developed, and then you would have a pump line cross country back kind of around Dodge Pond, coming back over through the hill, back to Chicken through Severance property essentially.
Yeah.
Now, that's obviously cost that would be exacerbated right now. So you have to look at the equity versus the revenue versus everything else to understand what our goal there is and how we implement that. And take into consideration the waters of Rangeley as the next one states, next one down. So I'm unaware right now of any large negative contributing factors down there with their septic systems or holding tanks or anything like that. Now, sometimes they're unseen and you won't know until something truly happens. Obviously, but I wouldn't say it's just like grown. The footprint has changed a little bit, been redeveloped. So I guess it's something we have to continue to talk about. I can work with.
Well, I mean, the first question here is define short term.
Short term.
Right. And they actually have a key on there that I can
That's fine.
go back to.
The second is cost of a pipeline from a closet through some fairly ecologically sensitive areas
Right.
to Chick Hill.
What about the easements and everything
I'm
else?
talking high,
So if I remember, I don't know if the actual
talking a hornet's nest of a meeting.
I don't know what the
I'm off the board.
Yeah, I don't want to be part of it. Last number I had was like $387 a foot installed for pipe
That was how long ago?
a couple years ago.
So we can tack 40% on top of that.
Easily. Now, that doesn't include any pump stations.
Yeah, that's.
Like you said, easements.
It just smell like it's really
Anything else?
flat through there.
No, I mean, you're looking at easily looking at,
Shale edge.
you can come gravity back, so you're gonna go up the hill. Up the Grasshopper Hill at least, a pump station. Then you could potentially gravity
Gravity down to Dodge.
down to Dodge. Most of it. Then you're gonna pump Yeah,
back up to Chick Hill, wow. How much a foot?
it's like 387.
308.
Back then,
That, that's an
sort
issue.
of,
It's probably 4, 5.
387, that's it, huh? That doesn't even sound.
That's gravity. That's gravity.
That's with no pump
That's just-
stations. How much is a pump
that's
station?
just a trench and a
I
pipe.
couldn't tell you right now. I mean, so the last pump station I know that Carabas put in a couple years ago was 1.2 million. Yeah, I don't know what what it was for a pump station.
What would be
Sorry, I was gonna do math.
the
Pump station.
A lot.
the positive side of doing this? Is revenue for the district or?
So yes, it's one of, if you look at, if you could, yeah, I mean, if you can pull in cluster development, so all of a sudden it's like, best instance, best scenario for us would be Rangeley West takes off and these investors come in and they're putting in these cluster developments of 100 units, 200 units, whatever it is. Knowing that they have to pay for their system to be put in.
Right.
So you're gonna invest in the collection system, but they're gonna invest in those cluster facilities. And you hope at that point that you can bring enough revenue in through that to, you know, obviously your ROI is gonna be, that's a little
Right.
short. Right now, with what is there for water, hookups down there for water, you figure.
What is it, what?
I mean, water connections down there right now, you figure.
For,
Like,
35.
so you look at 35 aquatic,
So there's
Water
35
connections.
That's
customers.
just, that's on town water, that's
So
not
you-
town
right,
water
right.
allowed.
so
Well,
you pick up 35 in town respectively. And then obviously you try to capture whatever you can all the way up through. So I bet there's
Right.
less than, you're lucky if you can get 100. Probably,
Right.
probably getting.
you might get a few, you could actually go all the way down Shore Road and get all of them, and that would add quite a bit. I mean, there's potential to have a lot.
Right.
But
Well, just what would be the difference between doing that or a smaller treatment plant in Aquasic?
where would you do that?
Yeah,
well, right,
That's
that's-
not a position.
It's a lot of things, you know, like you said, Josh, there's land acquisition, there's the permitting processes, in either method,
Right.
either one of those. You know, we have to look at the equity, what we could, you know, what from that system we're gonna have in there. I mean, what is the ROI on that system? I mean, that's earning. If you're really worried about the lake, then I guess that ROI doesn't matter as, the term doesn't matter as much, but
Right.
at the same token.
But there's,
Then
Millions.
a lot of really
Yeah.
ugly people that now have to pay for sewer that didn't before. It's just, is the
On the-
price of the egg worth the wear and tear on the chicken?
is. Obviously, we're just 4 citizens here with some aptitude on this. Is this, or is there money in the budget for someone, obviously, Wright Pierce is apparently engineering firm we're with right now,
Generally, right.
to draw up, plan on that, obviously, those cost money for them to.
Now, so what I can do is, we have two methods of this. I can look at the operating budget we have right now, look at the operating budget. What I'll do is, I'll talk to Ray Pierce. I'm gonna figure they're gonna probably for something like that, they're probably gonna tag me for at least, for a conceptual plan, at least $7,500. to do
Right.
it. Put on my budget right now, but I can talk to Jeff, get a quote. Talk about Ray Pierce, they're probably from Ray Pierce, talk to him, get a quote. Depending on what the turnaround on what the board wants for information from us on this.
Right, I mean, the board's tasked us with this.
Right.
And the first step is this little discussion
Right.
here. The second. step-
Right, so we look at conceptual, how it's
process.
conceptual process. You got, we'll get a number back to you guys, present it to you, maybe the next meeting, we'll say. At that point, we make a motion, if you guys feel strongly and we want to move forward with it, to give them the answers, we can move forward to request money out of the reserve account. You know, whatever X is, to get that conceptual plan up, to see, you know, respectively it's gonna
I
cost.
mean, that's
us.
what they've asked.
That's what they asked us to do, so. I'll text myself, I'll talk to Jeff Rebel, I'll get a price on it, bring it back to you guys, look at, you guys review it. Again, we'll make a motion to, recommendation to make a motion that you guys make a motion to request the amount of X to move forward with that conceptual plan, and we'll have it on record at least to show that in today's costs, potential X.
I think this is where our starting point is.
Yeah.
There's pumping it all the way to Chick Hill, or there's a
Secondary
small system there.
Yeah, obviously,
I-
you know, there, you're gonna have
I'm
to,
just thinking about the system itself down there in the roads. that's gonna be a huge expense, then getting it across a river.
Right.
Whether you pump it under the bridge or you go under, you directional bore, I mean, the money's gonna add up fast, then this number is not, it's gonna
I
scare
mean,
you.
it's 5 miles, it's 35 paying Watercrest is right now 5 miles away.
Right.
Yeah.
Any of
Over hill.
a secondary system down there is gonna be a completely different system.
Including Dale's
Right.
house.
Yeah, that's right. If the defluorination, all that stuff go back in the water down there. We build the land of plant down there. So
Say that again?
you could have a lagoon system down there, there's no way. Right. So you have to put it, discharge it back into body of water. So,
Which leads us to the next one. We're not gonna put it back into the body of water.
No.
Maintain and improve, we need it, ranges water resources. That's what we've just been talking about, we're staring down the barrel of PFAS.
Yeah, I think the way that you go, if you look, the idea on that one, yeah, PFAS studies we have to do. And I think it's worth going back, as Frenchie used to do, and looking at the development around the lakes, about water, and understanding secondary systems, collection of the holding tanks, everything. You're probably having that pre-backed out again. And understand what those structures.
Documented and inspected
Yes.
septic inspection for especially West Shore Range, like,
Correct. Yeah, that would be
that's where you start.
a good goal for us. Look at that, those processes, so.
That's achieving.
School actually used to, if I remember right, school actually used to participate with Frenchie in one of those studies, but actually go map one of those out for.
So that would lead us to, starting with West Shore Range. How many residences are there? How many systems there are? And how much is septic inspection is going to be for each one, right?
And once we have
And
those,
or dyeing it, et cetera. et
Correct.
cetera.
and through those studies, we can actually do, because we're actually working on the GIS system now, we can actually can pull those files from code enforcement if they're newer developments and put them into a study and understand systems ages and designs and stuff, actually have it on file.
So
moving forward.
to start that, we just need to know how many of those properties are there
And
and how much, and then do we pay, do citizens pay 50/50? I know some will say, I'll do it, because I want my, on the lake, and then some will be, no.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think part of it.
So where do we go from there on that?
I think we could look at that study first, understand just what the age.
I'm not picking on them, but I'm just picking on them first, because they're on the shore.
No, absolutely. Look at the age of systems and I guess determine there, I mean, in my opinion, if they're newest systems, there should be, there could be, if there's a septic system design in place that's fairly new, then we know that we can kind of utilize that potentially. If they're beyond that documented lifespan of an actual system, then we can force that upon them. I say force them, but use that as leverage, saying that the system is 20 years old, it's due for whatever anyway. Once in the middle, we have the ability to negotiate, I think. That's what I mentioned.
I guess maybe in the wording of that, maybe not single out West Shore there, we can just say people that have a riparian zone in a closet.
Right, that would, yes.
That includes my place of business, and
Absolutely.
So
I'll be the first one to do it.
When they upgrade their system, do they have to talk to the code enforcement, or are they supposed to?
They're supposed
A
to,
plan,
so
is submitted?
whether you're dwelling, whether you increase the size of your dwelling, even if you get past that 20-year life, 15-year life expectancy of the system, and you have to change infiltrators and all that stuff, you're supposed to have a technical design through Bethlehem, well, not locally Bethlehem, obviously, but through an engineer. Sure. So, but there has been instances we know already that fly by night, people put a new system in or expand their system or whatever else, it's not documented. It's happened a few times, not just, it's happened in West Rangeley,
No,
and it's happened.
sure. And there's other associations or lake associations that have come down hard on stuff like that and put some really harsh rules in place. It wasn't liked, but did his job. I don't think Rangeley is gonna do something like that, because I don't think we want to be perceived as, but maybe that's something we need to start thinking about,
You know,
unfortunately.
and I think, you know, Rangeley, I do know for the next couple of years. Some of the, Frenchie had a pretty good handle on some of the systems that he went through originally and had them accessible, cynical, and whatever else, and they took care of some of those issues around what we saw.
Right.
And then I know up to recently, there's more of a concern of what that resource protection area was, the range there, there's more of a concern than the tanks are right now. So I know a lot more people being vocal about the tree removal happening by the way. And I'm saying like not necessarily the tree here, the tree there. It's the clear, it's like that 20, 30 acres that have been happening. You know, that natural runoff happening. So, and that's, I think, one of the large figures that's it's outside of our wheelhouse in this regard, but it contributes to a multitude of other factors that happens with those lakes and ponds. So. That's what I have right now for comp plan, if that covers what your questions and thoughts are.
That's one of my thoughts.
Adjustment that I,
So I guess we just have to find section by section, really,
right,
start.
Everything of note will be in the riparian zone and then.
Find a list of that, and I guess we'll have to draft a letter, so we list where we're looking. We can be
absolutely.
cooperative,
Right, we know.
ahead of the game.
We have, it's not a time crunch here, so we'll set a schedule for timeline for ourselves, do it right, we'll do draft a letter, we'll get it revised, we'll write it off in sections, obviously. Figure out the things that funding, so that's, and I guess you gotta figure out if we want to look at it as. We work with, let's say, work with brackets, if they're pumping a tank out on that, in that area, and you have the ability to inspect while they're there, which, you know, obviously for me, there's a visual inspection. Groundwaters in there, et cetera, the things that you kind of learn atmospherically, and then he has the camera ability, you can still look at everything over there, you know, if it's the next step. So we have that on there footage if we need to. We can break him in on a meeting to see if that's something we would be interested in, or if, you know, maybe look at a third party that may be inspection wise that.
Yeah, he might not want to do that where it's a customer.
base, you know, so. Maybe working with Paul Packer at the same time. All right,
So those are some.
Well,
so if you got, I mean, this is where the adjustment would have been drawn here. Couple of things, one thing I want to talk about that I probably should have mentioned. We did have our annual inspection, DEP inspection with James Knight. Sure printed it out for you guys. I think Tracy might have attached it to your email. Doesn't matter. Anyway, we got the blessing from DEP, give it good work. We got hit a couple, get hit like you always do, a couple things. One for sure was they want catch nets in the wet wells so that nobody falls in accidentally. Or if they do fall in, they get caught before they get into the water at a pump or something of infrastructure. So easy to do, no big deal. We no longer, we went to transducer systems. So probably just, you know, it's not as relevant to be in there. Once a month, clean out the transducer, wipe it back off, whatever. So we're not as running there as much anymore. That's a good thing. There was another hit on fixing the lagoon fencing that got hit during snow removal. So after this repair the fencing around the lagoon, nothing crazy, but it's a small repair. Then there's two recommendations below those corrective actions. One was, and I know about it better already. One was updating the O&M manual every year, you know, and then the other one was adding. Slipping my throwing. That's something we did anyway.
Okay. I read that somewhere.
Roadways was one that we talked about with him anyway. Another documentation thing was having documentation updated. His recommendation for our own, it's recommendation, but it's obviously. Once it's, but again, good news, we're operating within our means. He did praise us quite a bit and being one of the more organized facilities that he has. So more organized and cooperative and outreaching. So I was happy with that.
That's awesome.
And I'll get you guys.
A lot of easy stuff right there. They gotta find something. They're never gonna not find something.
Right.
Part of that, when I did talk to, before we had Janet, Abraham Hanson, all water. And she was helping us with updating our O&M manual. The one downfall to our O&M manual is it's paper based. We don't have a PDF or a Word document of that, so I have to either scan it in and try to. Don't scan it. I'll be have somebody end up having a transcribe probably. At the end of the day, so we'll pay somebody for it. Somebody,
Have one of the girls.
one of the girls do it, or
I've tried
like
this,
that.
it just turns it.
The girls do it.
Yeah,
So
I love that. Tell them I said it was okay.
Which it had been mentioned before, and then they're like, well, how big is your manual? And I'm like, it's 4-inch binder, so it may end up getting hired out. Or day, but it may, we'll figure it out.
Tell the guys up there, good job. From, I don't know if you guys all agree, they're doing a good job.
Oh, absolutely,
From
yeah.
the board,
Oh, yeah.
tell them we appreciate the work they're doing.
Can definitely do that, I appreciate it, it's a good word to
I
have.
see them, quite often, so I know that
Thank you.
they're doing a good job.
Excellent. We'll go back next week on that one, next meeting. Some updates on the Chick Hill, we're looking at the CIP plan and stuff that we hadn't done too. That's complete. So actually, I owe you guys a copy of that too. I owe you guys a copy of the climate adaptation plan from DEP too. So you guys can review that. It's funny. It's been fully submitted to DEP, approved through DEP, and it kind of have to pay their capital improvement plans from that.
School board.
I'll give you guys a copy of that too. We're all that. Yep.
All right. All right, that being said, we're currently scheduled for the same day as the town meeting. That's a mess. I guess with some of these new things on here,
There's no need to postpone, so we schedule if there. What am I looking at? June.
Moving to the 7th.
we're still June 7.
Yeah. That's one.
She did send it
All
up.
right, good.
June 7 is not an awesome day for me, but
Oh, all
I'll
right.
make it work.
I just figured the Tuesday, it was the 21st.
We go to town meetings 14th, what they're saying here. But it's double down on Monday the 13th.
Go down on Monday, or you have the, I don't know if it's the Monday, 13th or 15th.
13th or 15th.
That's how I see it.
Doesn't matter to
I
me.
want to say with the.
Let's do the, doesn't matter to anyone. Let's do the 15th, no one likes a Monday meeting.
No, you're right. That is gonna be a busy day, but
Good point.
I'll be in here.
15 June,
16 June, all right,
Regular time, right?
regular time, 5 PM,
the 15th, correct?
correct,
5 o'clock.
5 PM, reschedule. All right, with that being said, is there any further discussion on anything? Bunch of new stuff got brought up. No, like sleepy boy. No, with that, not able to say anything, I will make a motion to adjourn this meeting at 6:02.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Aye, 4-0. Back to regular.